Hello and welcome back to OC Avery. Now, today in this episode of the Natives in Norwich Zoom Room, we're joined by Mr. Terry McCracken, where we focus on Greenfinches, clear and light mule and hybrids, breeding mules and hybrids, and tips for the show bench. So I hope you find some useful information in today's episode, which I'm sure you will, and a lot of experience from Terry himself to talk us through, which he does. So I hope you enjoy. Hello and welcome back to the Natives in Norwich Zoom Room. Today we've got Terry McCracken as our special guest. Now, thank you for joining us, Terry. So we're going to start off with a nice easy question. So please, would you introduce yourself and tell us a bit about the birds you keep?
Right, Terry McCracken. I've been keeping birds, British birds, since I was 14. I'm 81 now. I'm still as enthusiastic as ever. I've mainly got Greenfinches, Mules, Linnets, got some pied greenies, and that's about it. In the past, I've had mealy red polls. When I first started, when I was 14, I had soft bills, I had red starts, tree pipits, things like that, thrushes, blackbirds. So finches, I've had all sorts over the years.
Wow, a real array of native finches then. A lot of experience with them, I imagine. So how did you get started then? So you said you got started at age 14. What really brought that on for?
Yeah, about 40. I was about 40. Well, to tell you the truth, I caught a budgie on a railway line. And that created some interest. I had a few budgies, and then obviously I went on to British birds, and I've had them ever since. But British birds has always been my passion.
Yeah. So it was literally just catching a budgie, and then it's just snowballed from there.
Catching a budgie, what started it all off? Yeah, a grey budgie cock. Yeah, really. When I was about 14, but when I was at school, I was always interested in nature because teacher at school always used to lend me his paper because it was nature notes in it. I was always interested in nature, you know.
Yeah.
So that's where it all stemmed from. But I was always interested in exhibiting as well. I was showing us when I was 14 and 15, but obviously in them days I didn't win nothing.
Wow, well, a very different case recently. Now, to start off with, how do you prepare your birds for breeding? What supplements or treatments do you give them?
Well, to be honest, Oliver, I don't use a lot of supplements. I use a few multivitamins, and I've got some other bits and pieces, but nothing special. I just feed them well and let nature bring them into condition, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, that's excellent. Do you use other medications, perhaps, something like that?
If the birds are going off, I use Baytril, and obviously when we got the young greenies, we need Baycox to prevent going light.
Yes, got you.
Them's about the only two what I use, you know.
Yeah. So we're going to start and focus on the Greenfinches. Obviously, you've got some fantastic Greenfinches. Now, can you talk us through your approach to selecting your Greenfinch pairs? Do you look for pedigrees, or do you mainly just look at the pairs based on the visual appearance? And how close would you breed, like father to daughter, for example?
No, I never. It's a combination of looking at them, what they are, and the pedigrees as well, because I have a book which started in 1974 when I first started keeping records of my Greenfinches. Well, I'd like to pay tribute now to Alf Williams. He was the first man to start breeding Greenfinches. And in the early 70s, Alf wrote to me and he said there was a couple of lads packing in. They were called the Rowland Brothers. And they had 5 Greenfinches for sale. So Alf wrote to me and said, come down, Terry, and buy these and they'll put you on the feet, which I did do. And that's where I started with my Greenfinches. But Alf was the first man to start breeding Greenfinches. Alf Williams.
Got you.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So
that was in the 60s and 70s. I visited Alf in the 70s, and he had a pile of letters about a foot high, people asking for these Greenfinches off him. But if he didn't like you, he wouldn't let you have any.
Wow. Fair enough. So is it just the pedigree that you look for, or
no? It's a combination. I've never bred close. I've never bred father to daughter or son to mother. I've never gone that close. Closest I've gone, I think, is cousins. Really, I believe in bringing an outcrossing every year if I can. and that seems to work for me.
Got you. Well, that's great. Thank you very much for sharing that. So, with your greenfinches, then, how do you molt them out? What do you do to stop them going light? To give them the best molt and stress free as possible?
Well, I think part of it, Oliver, is how you feed them when they're young. If they're badly fed when they're young, or you don't feed them right, there's a good chance that you'll lose some. So you've got to feed them well when they're young, because I believe that 50% of the pedigree goes in through the mouth. So you've got to feed them well when they're even young, and feed them well all the way through. And I believe in variety in feeding, not just one thing. At one time, I used to travel 30, 40 miles for chickweed, but I don't do it anymore, to be honest with you. So the only green food I feed at the moment is broccoli and cress, punnets of cress. But that's the only green food I feed at the moment.
Right. Okay. So, what do you feed them for the best feather and the best colour? Is there anything that you give them for?
I think you've got to breed for the colour and the feather.
Yeah.
You know, you have different types of birds. I believe there's like 3 types of feather quality. There's like a yellow and a puff, and I call an in-between bird. And you've got to combine them to get your best results.
Got you. That's excellent. And then obviously, did you say you use baycocks for?
Baycocks to prevent them going light. Yeah, 2 mils to a litre of water. A litre of water. 2 days per month till they've molted through.
Got you. Well, thank you for sharing that. Obviously, you've got some amazing greenfinches, so this is something for everyone to take on board. Now, there was a time you was virtually unbeatable on the show bench with your greenfinches. What do you think a fancier needs to get on top, and also, to remain there at the top with the greenfinches?
Well, Oliver, it's hard to get to the top, but it's harder still to stay there, as you probably know. We've seen a lot of fancies in the past. They've got to the top, but they've not kept it up. I mean, when I first won the Scottish National in 1979, which is, 42 years ago, and I won the last 2 All-British shows with Greenfinches. It's just a combination of keep going and keep working hard at it, because success comes before work only in the dictionary.
Yes. Got you.
You like that one?
Yes, got you.
So you've got to work at your birds, and you've got to have friends who'll help you, which I have, and I help other people. They help me, you know. So it's a combination of things. And today there's a lot of good greenfinches on the show bench, more than ever. I mean, the bird I won the Scottish National with in '79, it would go to the pet shop today.
Wow.
They've improved that much.
Yeah. So when you're preparing your greenfinches for the show bench, what do you do in the days prior to get them in the best?
Well, obviously, once I've got all my youngsters and I've molted them all out, I will go through stage by stage, and I'll weigh things up, and I'll pick out which I think will catch the judge's eye, and I'll work on them. I'll put them in my shed in a single breeder, and I'll work on them. I'll keep popping them in the show cages for half an hour at a time, and just moving them about my shed in different places and get them steady. But steadiness can be bred into your birds. I know one fancy who says, "Hey, Terry," he said, "my birds are always wilder than yours." And it's in the strain sometimes, Oliver.
Yeah, got you. Okay, no, fair enough. So with the standard of greenfinches then, there's going to be different standards across different places in the world. There's continental breeders who might consistently breed quality young. Well, which country do you think has the best standard of greenfinches?
Malta without a doubt. The Maltese have been coming over here for, I don't know, that's probably last 20 years, something like that. And their birds are as good as ours now, to be honest. I mean, I've been to Malta 4 or 5 times judging, and their birds would be all right over here. They've had some good birds from over here, some of the best, and they've really bred them, so they're really into it. The Maltese, I have nothing but respect for them.
Yeah. No,
especially people like Roderick Abella and Anton De Bono and William. all good breeders, they breed over 100 greenfinches in a year.
Yeah, wow, quite a few then.
Yeah.
So obviously that might have quite an effect now on those guys. Well, actually, probably all across because we can't move the birds as freely due to Brexit and current restrictions. So we might start to see possibly changes in the birds if this continues and we can't move them. Do you
Yeah.
think, yeah.
Well, the Maltese, I mean, they come every year. They come over every year, like, and obviously they always want some good bird, which is fair enough. But they'd also take everything else what you don't want. But they're a bit worried this time because of the quarantine restrictions which are imposed at the moment. But things could change. It's a long way off November, isn't it?
Yeah. So, well, fingers crossed the shows will be on this year. I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why they need to keep coming because they got birds as good as ours now. Well,
No.
it's them outcrosses, I think, Oliver, what they need, you see.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Now we've got a question here from Dave Coughlin. He said, "Great to have a legend on board like yourself coming on here. The light greenfinch mule you bred. Now this is something that a lot of people know. I've seen it in the flesh, and it's an outstanding bird. You bred it, and it's by far the best light mule I've seen in the flesh, feather and colour to die for. Now, could you talk us through how you actually bred that bird?"
Yeah, I can, yeah. I bred it off a pied hen and a Norwich cock. The pied greenfinch hen I got off Jimmy Durnley, who's well known for his mealy red polls. And the Norwich cock came from Frank Binglecombe. But there was something about this pied hen which I liked. I can't tell you what it is because it's just one of them things either you've got it or you've not got it. So I put them together, but they didn't get on, Oliver. In fact, if they'd been man and wife, they'd have been divorced in the first week.
Oh.
Because she bit all his nails off. She bit all his nails off, and they used to fight like cat and dog. I had them together 4 years, and I got 2 fertile eggs in 4 years. I had them in a 4-foot breeding cage with a nest pan at either side, and she did lay eggs in the pan, but I never saw him mate her or anything. But when I was having a look at these eggs, I could see 2 I nearly dropped them, tell you the truth, because they were full like. So obviously I took them away from her because I didn't know whether she would feed or not. I put them under my best pair of feeders, and obviously they reared, and I knew they were like mules after a few, clear mules after a few days, because you can tell with the skin, if they're variegated, obviously they've got markings on the skin. Yeah?
Yeah.
So I could tell they were clear like, and it was a pleasant surprise, really. But they both turned out to be cockbirds. The buff as well, which obviously it always comes second to me yellowbird, which is quite right, because the yellowbird, well, they're like hen's teeth. I mean, I've never seen one. And Peter Degville, he's 90, he'll not like me for saying that. He's never seen one, and he's seen the light siskin mule of J.E. Williams, and he's seen most of the light mules what's been bred in the last 60 or 70 years. So, and I've still got them, and they're still like young birds. So, and I'm hoping to breed some more this year as well, Oliver.
Oh, fantastic. Is that from the same pair you're trying, or is that...
No, they've got, see, these 2 where I'm showing now, they're 6 years old this time.
Oh, right.
They're 6 years old this time. I mean, they didn't do much the first year, especially the yellowbird. It didn't do much the first year, but obviously they improve, you know. Every year they grow bigger and better, really. And that's what's happened with the buff bird. I mean, it's a shame for buff bird, really, because if I hadn't got the yellow, I think the buff would be winning.
Yeah. No, fair enough. I mean, they are stunning birds, the clear ones. So absolute credit to you for that. Now, you've had a lot of finch cross bullfinch hen pairs in the past. Now, which pair did you find most successful? Which finch cock was the best with the bully hen?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I've only had bully hybrids hatch. I've never reared any bully. I don't have many bully pairs together. In fact, I've got 1 pair together now, but over the years I've never had many bully because you can't get bully hens. So the winning I've done was always with dark mules, in actual fact.
Yeah.
I've had some really good linnet mules. I've had good siskin mule, a good twite mule, obviously a good greeny mule, And then I've got these light mules. In fact, I've won the All British 7 times with mules. In actual fact, you know, which is not many's done that.
Yeah. Oh, excellent.
But I put 2 or 3 pairs together. I mean, I don't consider myself a mule and hybrid specialist. It's only a bit of a sideline. The Greenfinches is my main bird. My mules are just a bit of a sideline, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But I've always done well with them.
No, fair enough. Was there any, I presume you have attempted, obviously, bullfinch mules, bullfinch hybrids. Was there any something easier?
Yeah, I've had the match. I've had a greeny bully hatch and a canary bully hatch. They weren't be able to. All my winning birds have been mules, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Yeah, well, yeah, fair enough. So just back onto the light mules quickly. Is there any?
Yeah.
Do you think there's any definite way to produce a light mule? And what do you look for in the parent birds when you're trying to produce a light mule?
Right. Well, I remember Baz Morris breeding 2 quite many years ago, because Baz had been dead quite a few years now, and he bred a yellow saddleback bird, and he bred a clear buff. But the saddleback yellow always used to beat the clear buff, which was quite surprising, really. But he bred them a few years ago, and over the last 4, 5, 6 years, I've bred about a dozen light mules. I have bred another clear buff, and over the last 2 years, I've actually off good pie greenies and good Norwich, I've bred 2 miniature mules, which is quite surprising, really. I mean, I showed one at Yorkshire, and I let Dave Henderson have a look at it, and Jack Lloyd was there, and 1 or 2 more, and they're all having a look what it was, and I told them what it was bred up, and they were somewhat puzzled by how small it was, you see, because these what I've got here are quite big. I bred 4 last year, and I did breed another small one last year, but that had a little black mark on its head.
And what are they? Sorry, Greenfinch.
But I breed them both ways, you know, using Norwich cocks with pied ends and pied greeny cocks with Norwich ends.
Oh, right. Okay. Wow.
So you can breed them both ways. And that what Baz bred, it only had a little tiny pied here, little tiny light mark over its beak. But I think the lighter you can get them, and certainly with the Norwich, at the moment I'm using clear Norwich. I've got 2 or 3 pairs together this time, and I'm very hopeful that I'll get some more light mules this year.
Well, yeah, fingers crossed for you, mate. Let's hope so, because obviously they are somewhat of a rarity, aren't they? The light mules and the clear mules. So, now we've got.
Yeah, well, they used to be the Holy Grail, didn't you, at one time?
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna say I've seen. Obviously, I've not been in it that long, but they seem to be something more commonly coming up now, from what I've seen of past records and stuff. Now, we've got a message here from Martin Higgins. Now, Martin says, "Hi Terry, can I ask when do you start your mules on colour feed? Obviously the young birds, and is it all done by water, or do you colour feed by food as well?"
Right. Well, I started about the middle of June, to be honest with you, because you don't know if they're early bred, they're going to break probably a little bit sooner. So I do start in June, about 2nd week in June, just giving a bit, and I put it in the egg food to start with. And if they're eating the egg food okay, I'll leave it in the egg food. But if they're not, I'll start putting it in the water. Because you've got to, obviously, if you don't colour feed them right, you've lost a season. So it's important that you get your colour feeding right. But for my light mules, I'll be honest with you, I do not use Carophil red. I use Carophil orange because it won't burn them and it won't spoil them. But for linnet mules, things like that, you can use Carophil red with no problems.
Got you. So what is it? So you would rather prefer egg food, but if they aren't taking it, then you'll go to the water.
Yes.
Got you. Well, that's great. Is there? I mean, could you give us a bit of an idea on how much you put in there, if you'd like to share that?
Well, you can't. I don't think with the Carophil orange, Oliver, I don't think you can burn them. And with linnet mules, same with Carophil red, I don't think you can burn them. But if it's going through in the droppings, I think you're probably giving them a little bit too much. Are you with me? If the droppings are showing red or yellow, I think you're probably overdoing it. So you can just step back a little bit and ease off towards the end, you know.
Got you. Yeah, no, fair enough. So just this is quite a general question, but any tips on breeding mules and hybrids? What is your go to from the first pairing all the way through the season?
Right, yeah. Well, there's two different ways really. I think with your Norwich cocks, with your greeny hens or whatever hens you have, the sooner you can get them together after October, the better it is. But with Norwich hens, I've found that it doesn't matter as much because I've bred 3 different mules off one Norwich hen. I've bred Skin Goldie and Linnet off in one season, same Norwich hen. So it's a bit different like that. So sometimes I'll put my Norwich cocks together as soon as I get them, put them with the pied hens or the green hens or whatever I'm breeding. But with the Norwich hens, I do it a bit different because you can play about with them. They don't seem too bothered, you know.
Yeah, got you. So you would so obviously with the Norwich hens, is that just when you're pairing up, you've got a spare such and such, you try that with it, or is that do you run them any other time together to try and get them bonded?
I'll leave the Norwich hens usually on their own till it's coming breeding season about March time, because they'll not go till early April at soonest. Norwich hens sometimes a bit later, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't think you need bond them as much as what you do with Norwich cocks and Finch hens.
Got you. Okay, no, fair enough. Now, yourself and Jack have dominated the show scene in 2019, winning all the major specialist shows, taking best mule and hybrid and best hard bill between you. What's your most memorable win from that season?
Well, the most memorable win is not from that season. It's from way back when I had best mule hybrid, the All British, best hard bill and best in show. And I did the double. I think it was in 2018. I'd also best mule hybrid and I'd also best hard bill with a greeny cock. It was either 2018 or 2019. And I've also had best soft bill at the All British, but I don't think anybody else has done all the 3, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, no, fair enough. What was your best soft bill? What was that?
A song thrush.
Oh right, okay.
A song thrush. Yeah.
Oh, lovely.
But they had thrushes at one time, cinnamons as well. In fact, Roger Kane was the first person in this country to breed a cinnamon song thrush into this country, and me and a guy called Rod Rains bought it off him, to be honest, and we bred quite a lot off it as well. That was imported from Holland. That was, I don't know, must be 30, 35 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Wow, I mean, I love the cinnamon song thrushes. They are one, that's probably my favourite soft bill.
I'll tell you a little story now. My wife was unrearing one day, a cinnamon song thrush, and we feed them with a matchstick, Oliver, and we use an unrearing food, and it swallowed the matchstick as well. So she wouldn't tell me because in case something went wrong with the thrush, but it came out through the backside.
Oh wow!
She was frightened to death of telling me.
Wow, that was a lucky bird.
Yeah.
Swallowing the whole matchstick. Damn.
Yeah.
Well, obviously there's been many exceptional birdmen over the past decades that you've competed against. You got John Broadbent, Jimmy Grosvenor Ridgway, and Jack Lloyd, just to name a few. Can you say who was the most competitive exhibitor you've ever come across? And maybe who did you look up to in your younger years?
The guy I looked up to in my younger years was a guy called Austin Jones, who lived in St Helens. And he used to show teams of birds, British birds. He used to show 3 goldies, 3 bullies, 3 greenies, and he used to send them all over the country. I was only about 16 or 17 then, I think, something like that. And I looked up to Austin because he kept all his birds, and he added these cages, and they had a bath at each side of every cage. And he got most of his birds from Scotland, by the way. But he was what's name. But the most competitive, I think, and the best one I've come across is Jack Lloyd, because John was a very he had a lot of birds, and Grosvenor Ridgeby he put them down well. Jimmy Rutter, I think Jack is the best I've come across.
No, fair enough. Well, we've actually got through those questions quite quickly. So, if you got any stories you'd like to tell us, anything else you'd like to mention?
Yeah, I'll tell you one or two stories. Yeah,
please go for it.
I'm going back a few years now when I bought a crossbill from a guy called Beasley who lived down, I think, at Herefordshire or something like that, and they used to send them on the rail then in little cardboard boxes, and they used to send them overnight. So he sent it for me. I think it was £5 at the time, the cost of it, and he sent them to Wigan Station, and I went to Wigan Station to pick my bird up, and there was an hole in the top of the cardboard box. So I thought,
no.
oh, and I said to this guy behind it, I said, "Where's my bird?" He pointed up to the sky. He says, "There you see on that rafter there." I said, "Blinking heck." I said, "Will you keep your eye on it?" He said, "Why?" I said, "Well," I said, "have you got a ladder?" He says, "Yeah." I said, "I'll come back tonight." I said, "It'll not move off that perch there." And I went back at night and I got it actually. And I showed it the following weekend for about that retail.
Wow. that was a lucky one then.
That was a lucky one. Yeah. Yeah. There were a lot of good exhibitors, but a lot of them were obsessed with winning. But I think today it's a lot better, and there's some really good breeders today, like Andrew Higson and Darren Bond. They're producing some wonderful Greenfinches, and other fanciers as well, like, you know. But the greener classes are probably the most competitive, because sometimes you'll get more than 30 in a class. The largest class I've seen over here is 45, but in Malta they have classes of 60. And
wow.
they have about 400 Greenfinches in a show.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's quite a few then. How often do you judge then? So, you know, in an average season, how often would you be asked?
Well, last few years I've not done as much, because obviously I do show a large team of birds, and if I'm judging, they're going to miss 20 birds, something like that. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I've judged all the major shows. I've been to Ireland about 7 times, I think, judging the shows. I've judged the big Dublin show a couple of times. I've judged the cage birds. I went to Balbriggan about 35, 40 years ago. Balbriggan. So I've judged all the major shows, like, you know, judged the Old National and that, and yeah, and me and Jack's been all over really judging. Yeah, and we've shown them all over. We've been from Inverness to what's name, from as far as Inverness, we've been to showing birds, you know.
Wow. No,
that was an hotbed then in Inverness. Alistair Jr. invited me and Jack up because that was an odd bet, and they had the centenary show in 1981. And I was a bit lucky. I managed to get best with a greenie cock.
Wow. Well, that's an achievement then. Well,
yeah.
Well, that's brilliant. Well, Terry, is there anything else you'd like to mention? Anything else? Any more stories? Anything like that for people?
Let me have a think, Oliver. There's plenty of things I could tell you. Yeah. Oh yeah, me and Jack come back from Scottish. Well, there were 4 of us. We come back from Scottish National one year. And we came back on the train, but it was that bad weather that the line was blocked. So they said, "Well, we'll put you in a hotel." So I said to this guy, I said, "There's 4 of us." I said, "Well, we weren't paying for a taxi to Wigan." So they did that. So we got a taxi from, I forget whereabouts, it was in the Lake District. So they paid for us a taxi to come back to Wigan, because my car was at Wigan Station, you know.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they'd have put us in a hotel at night. But we came back in a taxi from Scottish National Line.
Yeah.
Yes, wow. There's a few. Yeah, there's a lot of tales. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. It is a question.
Derek,
oh yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
No, sorry. Carry on.
Yeah, I said Derek Cole. No, he's sorely missed. Derek was a good birdman and good for the fancy. He revived the Yorkshire Club. He got he got that going, you know. And that was really good. But he died when he was 40, Derek, unfortunately.
Oh,
Yeah, it was very sad, that. Very sad, Derek. Yeah, I like Derek. Yeah.
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 So I've got a question, actually. I asked Jack Lloyd this. Now, you've seen the birds transform probably from when you was young, from greenfinches being probably almost a wild type to what they are today. Well, if we fast forward 50 or so years, where do you think the birds will be?
I think we're reaching the limit now, Oliver. I think we're reaching the limit with the birds now. Because I don't think we can go much further, because, like I said, that bird where I won the Scottish Nashville in '79. It's just a pet shop bird today. I've got an actual painting of the original bird, which Eric Peake did for me, which he kindly gave me, and it would be disposed at pet shop today. I don't think we breed any of that for now. You know what I mean? After all this time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know.
No, fair enough then. Well,
there was someone else I was going to say to you.
Yeah, no worries.
I thought of someone else. It's just gone now, Oliver. No, it's just gone.
No, fair enough, Terry. Fair enough. Well, on that, mate, if there's nothing else left to say, well, thank you very much for coming on.
You're all right. Yeah, I hope some people's got something out of it.
I'm sure they will have, mate. You've got loads of knowledge behind you as well. We can always do some more of these, and we'll come up with some more questions and different things to talk about. So thank you very much for coming on.
Yeah, no problem, Oliver.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. All the best. Thank you.
So that brings us to the end of this episode of the Natives in Norwich Zoom Room. So I hope you enjoyed it and found some useful information in this. I sure have, and I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. I'd also like to say a big thank you to Terry himself and his daughter for coming on board to help us film this episode, and obviously his daughter helping us out with the technology side of it. So massive thank you to Terry there for sharing his wealth of knowledge with us as well. So if you have enjoyed today's video and you'd like to see more, please leave us a like and subscribe down below so you get to follow along with all episodes of the Natives in Norwich Zoom Room and videos that I produce on a weekly basis about all of my birds. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.